recognize as something that I could improve on. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Great, welcome.
Richelda. Hi, I'm gonna stand. Hi, because I don't want everybody to see me. Hi, my name is Richelda Kone. I actually decided to start doing Toastmasters because I recently got my certified association in project management, so I'm working into that. So also been approved for the PMP. So I decided, since I'm doing interviews, going out there, I want to be able to improve my presentation skills, getting to know different people, and just be more outgoing like you guys.
All right. And Karen, did you recently join?
Yes, I'm proud to say that I'm not a guest anymore.
You must be our newest member.
As
Welcome.
of April 1st.
Terrific.
And we're going to put her
We will get you an official name tag.
What's the difference? I don't know. Member and guest.
We can picture
it's my first time.
We need to get Aksha
Yes.
a blue folder, please.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I'm missing
So,
out on something.
yes,
Okay.
and Larry and I can answer questions during the meeting because we'll be sitting next to you, and then after the meeting we stick around. Any questions you have? All right. Fundamental differences: when you're a paid member, you can get on the agenda to speak,
Okay.
and otherwise you can't.
All right.
So you want to be able to.
Pretty much
It's a little bit more than that.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Okay. And now I will ask for. I believe Larry's doing our inspiration this evening. Larry Riggs.
I'd say it's difficult to decide what to share because so many cool things happen. So I'm going to start with a really neat story that a friend of mine told me actually when he was getting his motorcycle license. And that is, you go where you focus. So he said they were taken out to a big parking lot, and in this parking lot there was one tree. Everything else was wide open. The instructor made the mistake of saying, "Don't run into the tree." So sure enough, one of the students got on the motorcycle, going through the gears, and ran into the tree because that's where she focused. Anybody who's ridden a motorcycle, especially like if you've ridden a big bike, you go where you focus. So it can seem like it's impossible to turn that bike if you're focused in the wrong place. And a little personal experience. Now, some of you know I have a coach that's really has helped me working on my business. I'm also in sales, and so I got a text the other day from the personal assistant of one of our owners, and it said, "Larry, Eddie wants to, wants you to participate in this challenge and feels that you can handle this, blah, blah, blah." And I'm joking with my broker, and I said, "Well, so yeah, they send 500 texts out." And she kind of gave me that look and said, "No, they didn't. He called me and asked who would be good for this program, and I gave him your name." Now, the reason I say that is you go where you focus, because I have really been challenging myself to improve myself, to grow my business, and opportunities keep coming up, and new contacts keep coming up. It's, and some people balk at this, the old idea of the law of attraction, but let me tell you, you go where you focus. So the challenge I put out here to inspire you is to ask you where you focus. And when you come into this room, where are you focused? Are you focused, those of you who are guests and want to improve your speaking skills and grow, and of those of us who have been around, I've been speaking for a long time, I still want to improve my speaking skills. Is that where you're focused? We have some awesome opportunities. I'll brag a little bit about someone else here. For you guests or brand new members, we have a wonderful past president running our mentoring program, and we do have a strong mentoring program. So if you want a mentor to help you out, that's available to you. Christine, yes, she's the one. She's our mentor boss. So challenge yourself. Focus on where you want to go. Don't focus on where you don't want to go. Because you'll go there too. You will hit the tree. So that's it.
Good.
Thank you. For the rest of this evening's program, I would like to ask our Toastmaster of the evening, Lisa, to come up and get us started.
Welcome everyone, our members and our guests. Always like to see new faces. Always like to see that. I am the Toastmaster of the evening, and what that means is I'm your hostess tonight. I'm going to keep you on track and on time. I'm a taskmaster. I'm going to introduce speakers and make sure that we all have a great time. I'm also the party coordinator here. So we're going to have a good time tonight, guys, whether you like it or not. What we have here is we have 3 parts of our meeting. We have the prepared speeches, where people have taken a lot of time and effort to follow their pathways course and prepare a speech. And then we have the evaluators of that speech. And then we have the table topics, which we're thinking extraneously. In fact, Jerry is now strangely coming up with table topics because our table topic master hasn't arrived. So we do all of these things so that we can learn. And we do all of these things as a collective so we can learn from each other and support each other. And that's why we're all here. I'm going to thank each and every one of you who volunteered for a position as a helper today. I sent out my email in a very, discreet, can you please help? It's going to really help you too. And I got volunteers. So thank you very much for that. And you learn from filling the roles also. So the first role we have is the grammarian, and that would be Jody. And Jody, can you inform our members and our guests what a grammarian does?
Sure. As a grammarian, I'll be responsible for commenting on language usage during the course of the meeting. Throughout the meeting, I'll be listening to everyone's word usage, writing down any awkward use of the language, such as incomplete sentences, sentences that change direction midstream, incorrect grammar, malapropisms, etc., with a note of who erred. And I'll also write down who used the word of the day, or a derivative of that, and note those who used it correctly or incorrectly.
Thank you, Jody. Speaking of the word of the day, we have David here who's going to give that information to us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the word of the day today is a noun. It is exigence or exigency. Wow. The definition, an urgent need or demand. Used in a sentence, I rubbed it off a little bit. Bill's allergy medication is an exigency he always carries around. Exigence.
Thank you. And for our guests, Toastmasters are very into clapping. Just thought I'd inform you that. So we clap until the person sits.
Okay.
So it might be a little tedious, but we like to encourage everyone, and that's how we encourage everyone. The next person is Tom May with the Wizard of Oz. Please explain, Tom.
Ha, poof! I'm the Wizard of Oz. So it is very common that when the human brain is thinking about stuff, and you want words to come out, and nothing's ready to come out, we fill in that space with, I'm going to do this, or whatever. We try to not do that. So my role is tonight, while people are speaking, I keep track of how many times they go, and those other fillers that are put in between while our brain is thinking. And at the end, I will give a little report that gives feedback on that, so we can try to concentrate on not filling in those blanks with ums and ahs.
Thank you. Another important job is the timer, and that would be Bakari.
Good evening. I'm the timer tonight, and I'll be running the spend meter tonight to make sure that everybody spends their time well. For the table topics, they are 1 to 2 minutes. Evaluations are 3 to 2 minutes. We don't have icebreakers today, but those ones are usually 4 to 6 minutes. The evaluated speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. When the light is green, you're okay. When it's Yellow, you kind of start wrapping up there. And then red is time to go ahead and stop. We like to keep everything on time. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least is our vote counter, Ruth.
Good evening. I will be counting your votes tonight. All of you should have one of these long pieces of paper where at the bottom you will cast your vote for the best speech, best evaluator, and the best table topics. Also above that there's little notes that you can write to the person, to the speakers, if you really thought that your speech was encouraging or inspirational. You can write little messages for that person and give it to them.
Thank you.
Cool.
And I would like to encourage you to use the upper portion and write encouraging notes or maybe suggestion. It's so nice to hear from people and get some more feedback. It's always good. So please, feel free to do that. Now we come to the heart of our program, and that would be the prepared speeches. The first prepared speech is by Alexander Ball. He's doing Pathways Level 4. It's 5 to 7 minutes. The title of the speech is Podcast 101. It's an introduction to the word podcast and his experiences creating his first one. So, Alex Ball, Podcast 101, Alex Ball.
Welcome to Podcast 101. To start, I'd like to share a minute of the podcast I made. I made it last night, so I clearly didn't do it at the last minute.
Welcome to the first Toastmasters Experience podcast. We interview Toastmasters members and their experience. But first, let's hear from our sponsors. Toastmasters International, it's like $50 to join. If you join through the website, you don't get a discount, but you can still join. Thank you, Toastmasters, for that sponsorship. Today we're going to be interviewing a very special guest, myself. Myself today. We're talking about my experience with Toastmasters, why you should join, what you get out of it, and just the whole shebang. So,
it's my favorite word. Who here knows what a podcast is? Pretty much everybody. Podcast is 2 words combined. iPod and broadcast.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a fun fact, it actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Back in the day when iPods first came out, they did not have internet or radio. So the only way you could listen to a broadcast is downloading it off the internet onto your iPod. If you also remember, way back in the day, most MP3 devices could not hold that much data, and CDs could only hold maybe 30 minutes worth of content. So that's where they began. In the past 4 or 5 years, they've really exploded in popularity, which I suspect is because I think traffic keeps getting worse and worse. So we're constantly on the road listening to podcasts. As of the last couple of years, there's over 500,000 podcasts on iTunes. So if you cannot find something interesting there, there's probably something wrong with you. So, how do we make a podcast? Step 1, the best part, you gotta choose your subject. It can be anything. There's hundreds of millions of people in the world. You can find a niche that people will listen to. I obviously chose something really generic. We all do Toastmasters. I was talking with Christine earlier, and she said she's gonna do dating, which I'm really excited to hear about. Step 2, you gotta pick a title for your podcast. You need a brand. I listen to a podcast on investing. It's called the investor podcast. Not very exciting. I listen to a guy called Joe Rogan every once in a while. I think his is called the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm going to name my podcast the Alex Ball podcast, keeping it with the normal theme of the names. Number 3, you have to figure out the structure. Now, podcasting is kind of a new form of media. We've had music and TV and newspapers and books forever, but podcasting is kind of coming out there. So you can do humor, you can do structured. If anyone here has listened to Serial, it's kind of like a docu-series criminal podcast, or you can do interviews, you can have different segments, but you have to keep in mind it's purely audio, so people can't see you. That's the most important thing to remember. The next thing is you have to figure out a subject for each podcast. That's why it's important to pick something you're passionate about and really explore that every single time. So for my Toastmasters podcast, I was interviewing myself, but I could continue interviewing different members. I could interview people at higher levels, former competitors, people who have won at the international stage. The next step, and probably the most intimidating step, is actually recording it. So you don't need a lot of fancy equipment. If you're actually good, you probably should get that eventually. But a desktop PC with a video camera is fine, as long as you can get the audio, or a phone works really well as well. Make sure it's stable, you don't want it shaking around, you want to get that consistency. Go through your podcast, just speak, don't worry too much about it. We're just trying to get that podcast done. We're trying to get it out there to share with the world. The next step is sharing it. Now, if you're not very technology inclined, I know that can be intimidating as well, but they made stuff really easy these days. Back in the day, it was not easy, I remember, because I used to try and do this stuff when I was like 12. Nowadays, you can just go on your phone, you can find the video, and you can just upload it to YouTube. That's not ideal, but that's a great start. You also want to try and get it onto iTunes, which is also pretty straightforward. You just need an account, and then you just upload the audio and put a title on there. If you want people to listen to it, remember there's 500,000 podcasts. So you need to go share it with everybody. Share it with your mom, share it with your grandma, share it with your friends, your family. Find every forum relevant to that topic and share it. After that, consistency. You'll build up a base, you do it every single week, and eventually it will continue to grow organically until you're successful and famous, which I'm sure someone in here will do. So, this has inspired you, or you have anything niche or anything cool to talk about, or you just want to have fun, I recommend somebody here go out and make their first podcast.
Just vote.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Christine will be evaluating.
Our second speaker is Parsa. He's in Dynamic Leadership Level 1. His speech is going to be 5 to 7 minutes, and it's how to manage the danger zone. We're going to learn about the danger zone. Parsa.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I guess first I need to go back to the last time that I defined danger zone. Many of you were not present at the time. So we defined comfort zone, which was familiar to most of you guys. And then we said that in the comfort zone we have a steady performance, the stress levels are low, and everything is good. And then we said that when we get out of our comfort zone, when we experience the exploration of outside world, something natural is the stress level rises. And we said that while this stress level is rising, our performance is actually getting better. We are having a better concentration, till to a certain point that we call the danger zone. that our performance drops. We are basically freaking out. The reason that I choose this topic was the feedback I received from some of you guys last time, that basically, what is danger zone, how we can avoid that. That was the main reason that brought me to choosing this topic. First, I wanted to call it how to avoid danger zone. And then I said to myself that avoiding danger zone means always remaining inside your comfort zone. That's not who I am. So I didn't want to avoid danger zone. I want to manage it. I want to learn how to deal with it. And this is something very important for myself, because I'm someone who likes to challenge. I like to challenge myself. So basically, I live in that margin of danger zone. So I really like to go out and research about how can I manage danger zone? How can I have good performance and also be able to not being too anxious? So I researched about it. I will keep the main two results for the end, and I start from the third one now. The third main important thing to control your stress level is learn to say no. It's very simple. There are many, many people coming toward us and asking us to do a favor, to just do something. And our life is busy on its own. We have so many things that we are working on right now. We should learn to say no when we have something to do. Many of us, we just want to be nice. We want to help others, which is perfectly fine. But when you have something that is worth doing, learn to say no. I'd like to help you, but right now I am busy with something else. That's very important. The other thing was helping you to reduce your stress levels was how to make priorities. We all have limited amount of time, and there is an 80%, 20% law that says 80% of the outcomes of your life is the result of 20% of the things you do, and 20% of the outcomes of whatever success you have in your life is the result of remaining 80% of the things you're doing. So we should learn to focus on that 20% that actually has output. That's super important. You have limited time. You need to be able to wisely choose what you are investing your time on. If you invest your time on things that worth, you are achieving, you're becoming successful. And that results automatically will reduce your stress levels because you are getting something out of your time. That's very important. The third thing that was many people said has an extreme impact on lowering the stress levels was having a good sleep. And it's a little bit tricky because it's a cycle. If you are too stressed out, you cannot sleep. If you don't sleep, you get more stressed out. So this is a cycle that needs to be broken. And I encourage any of you who have issues with that, go research about it, learn about it, and that will help you quite a bit. Now I'm going to go back to the main two topics that I kept for the end. Personally, in my life, I have seen many people applying these two in their lives when they are stressed out. One was people who tend to do physical activities while they are stressed out, going to gym, going outdoors, running, things like that. And the other group is those who are going toward caffeine, nicotine, or alcohol. Personally, I have many friends who have chosen one of either these two methods. And the first one, the group that do physical activities, it's been proven that it's helpful for you. Go out there, go running, go to the gym, do things like that that will help you to reduce your stress levels. The other method, short time might help you. Coffee might help you. Smoking might help you. Alcohol might help you in short time, in a short period of time. But in a long run, you will be hurt. The last thing that I want to finish my speech with is I'm a believer in wisdom of fortune cookies. And this is also one of the reasons that why I choose this topic for my speech. I don't believe in the lucky numbers, but the other side that writes something on it, I really believe in it. It says, nothing in life is to be feared. It's only to be understood. So even if you want to even if you want to manage that danger zone, it's not to be feared. It's just to be understood. And I'm in the red already.
Our third speaker is Unwu, and she's doing innovative planning, level 2, 5 to 7 minutes, and her title is, Are Leaders Born or Made? Ooh, very good question. As her project was understanding her leadership style, she has thought about different leadership styles, and she realized that she has a strong belief regarding what leadership style she uses. She wanted to share her experience with the club members, and I can't wait to hear it. Unwu.
Nowadays, leadership is becoming more and more important. It's almost an exigency in our life. There are tons of books on how to be a good leader, a lot of seminars, workshops on how to build leadership skills. But shouldn't we ask this fundamental question first? Are leaders born or made? Is leadership a learnable skill that we can practice to be better at? You might think that you already know the answer, and so did I. I thought it was stupid to ask these questions because I knew it. It was so obvious that leaders are born. My strong belief started when I was 10 years old. I had an election at school for a class president, and on the blackboard there were 2 names, mine and Kim's. My teacher collected the ballots and marked on the board, Kim, and Kim. So Kim was elected as a president. I had to admit that I was so disappointed. But honestly, I knew that she would get it because she was born to be active, outgoing, socially attractive, and charismatic, just like the leaders that I've read from the books. Julius Caesar, Joan of Arc, Napoleon, and so on. For me, leaders were extraordinary people that has special personalities. a normal person like me, who is quiet and doesn't like to be in front of others, was not considered a type of person to be a leader. On my firm belief, a small crack generated when I first met one of my mentors. When she asked about myself, I told her, I can be a good team member, but I can't be a good leader. That's my nature. Well, Unu, if you think like that, you might want to read this book. And she handed me a book titled Strength-Based Leadership. In the book it says there are 34 different types of strengths. And just like no one here has the same fingerprint, no one has the same combination of strength, and therefore every leaders are different. So when I finished this book, I ran to my mentor again. Wow, I didn't know that there can be different types of leaders. Exactly. You have your own strength, and you don't have to be someone else to become a leader. Captain America doesn't have to be Iron Man. So then I realized that I had admired Kim for so long that I made her my stereotype leader, and I followed that for a long time. But my strong belief was totally smashed when I joined Toastmasters. Do you know the slogan of Toastmaster? Toastmaster, where leaders are made. Leaders and made seems like a strange combination to me. And I didn't believe it until I was told to be a club president. It was right, leaders were made, regardless of your intention. It was very hard at the beginning. I tried to imitate my past presidents. But then I remember my mentor's word. Captain America doesn't have to be Iron Man. I was an introvert, and I've heard thousands times that an introvert doesn't qualify for a leader. But although I may not speak very much, I was a good listener, and I truly cared others' opinion. Later, one of my members approached me and said, "You know what? I think you're the type of person who really listens to our voice, even if it's a stupid idea." So I found that I can be a leader in my own style. Think about it. There may be a gap between a type of leader that you think and a type of leader that you can be. For a long time, I thought that leaders were born with special powers. And to be a leader, I have to gain, learn, or at least fake those powers that I don't have. But now I know that I have my own superpower, and by honing them, I can be a good leader and be authentically me at the same time. So if you ask me, are leaders born or made? I can answer you, leaders are made, but not from scratch, from the pillar that you already have.
And that ends our prepared speech section. So please decide who you want to vote for. It's a hard decision here because they were all great. So the first speaker was Alex, the second one was Parsa, and the third was Anu. And put it in the can and pass it around. And they'll eventually all end up with Ruth so she can have it.
It's the votes, yes, that was.
everyone can have like that.
Yeah, you can only do one.
The second stage would be our table topics where we get to learn to think on our feet. And Jerry is going to be our table topic master and give us an opportunity to do that.
First, a little ground rules. Table topics is the one portion tonight where guests are welcome to speak up front. So please feel free to volunteer for a table topics topic. Tom, would you mind refreshing our memory on the time that table topics people have up here? The 1 to 2 minutes?
That's correct, yes.
1 to 2,
minutes.
thank you.
That's right.
And again, with the lights, green means you reached 1 minute, yellow is 1.5 minutes, red's gonna go on at 2 minutes. There's a theme to tonight's table topics, and that is Toastmaster tweaks. The very first question, I'll announce it, then I'll take volunteers. You'll come up, we'll shake hands, and at that point, once you start speaking, the time will start. The first question, if you were speaking tonight, what type of feedback or notes would you like to get in that top section of the ballots and brief evaluation card? We have a volunteer. Yes, I'm sorry, I don't see a name tag, but you're welcome to come up.
Okay.
Yeah, come on up.
Like anyone else was going to raise their hand.
Rachel, great.
How many minutes is it again?
1 to 2.
Okay. How do I know when to start?
Whenever you want. Whenever you start talking.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel, and tonight we're going to talk about which type of feedback I would like if I were speaking and I had the ballot. When you talk about feedback, you know, and you're speaking, you're hoping to hear something that will enrich your performance or your skill. You're hoping to hear something encouraging. You're hoping to hear something that will make you feel stronger than before you started speaking, prepare you for that next go-round. And I find that often when I'm getting constructive feedback from others, it leaves me with a feeling of completeness. It's like the end you would hope for after putting so much effort into something. You're hoping for things to come full circle and to hear that you've done a good job and you've done a great job for trying, but you don't always get constructive feedback. Sometimes you look out there, you see people's eyes roll, you see people looking at their phones, you know, and when I started working at a supervisory position in fast food, we would have these meetings that no one wanted to come to on Sunday. And I worked for Chick-fil-A, so this is the day we were closed. And I would see people sitting around, and they always force, you know, whatever leadership position you had, they force you to make a presentation. So I'm like, maybe I'll talk about how we're using too many free cups. Like, you know, use a bottle, save the environment. Don't use Chick-fil-A's free cups, just bring your own bottle. But you know, even with this, people wouldn't give me constructive feedback, and I found that I didn't really want to do it, and the crowd could feel that coming from me. People know when you don't want to be up there. So if you want good feedback from people, you have to show that you're interested in speaking with them, and I find that people will be more engaged. So that's pretty much the points I was making tonight. Yes, we all want good feedback. We want to hear we did great. We want to hear some constructive criticisms about how we can improve next time, but we have to get out to get it.
Thank you, Rachel. Next question. Again, I'll give you the question, then your hand and volunteer. If you had the opportunity to change this room setup in any way you want, stadium seating, bigger opening here at the big U, how would you arrange this room for a Toastmasters evening? Alex.
I always like a new challenge, and I think, and I've wondered this, if you do the same thing too much, you get too comfortable. So, for guests who don't know, it's always set up like this. And I've never gotten up and spoken in front of a large crowd, or spoken in the middle of a circle. So what I would like to do is rotate it, and have a bunch of different setups, and we'd have somebody designated as a rotator, and every couple weeks they would just do whatever they wanted with it, and then you'd have to get up there and do it, and just speak. And it'd be an interesting challenge, because right now I only have one direction, but if I had to like spin around and talk to somebody over there in the corner, it'd be a different challenge. I'd also like to have a pedestal thing that you stand and speak at. We have one here, but it's not high enough, I think. And I'd also like to have a microphone, because that would be different as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Alex. Now, if you'll take a moment to vote, our first table topic speaker was Rachel, and our second table topic speaker was Alex. Joe is our general evaluator of the evening. Joe, the floor is yours.
The other one's coming around quick.
Well, Toastmasters, the thing about Toastmasters that makes it different is that everyone gets evaluated, no matter what role they do, except the general evaluator, I think. But the general evaluator gets evaluated by the other officers. So I'm sure I'll hear feedback from them. But the important thing is not only every prepared speaker gets evaluated, gets their feedback from another evaluator, but the other people in the roles. And that's what makes Toastmasters different, and that's what's important. I have an exigency to give Alex this portable remote speaker, since he has an exigency. I can't even say it. But you can put it back up here. But if you feel a need for a microphone and want to play with a microphone, we can arrange that.
We should try that.
I have actually on a big podium, not a podium, but a stage, the other one. But anyway, that aside, let's move on to our evaluation, and I need my agenda for that. Thank you. So our first evaluating our first speaker is Christine. And I'll invite Christine Mbarz up here.
Dang it, Alex, I was hoping you were going to make my job easy tonight, but you did a really good job.
Is it easy to give me a lot of criticism?
Podcast 101 topic I was very interested in, because we're both in level 4, and that's the one I want to do next. So with that, I was looking for, was it well organized? Was I going to understand by the time you got to the end? Was I going to be up? I can do a podcast, which I was. So very good job with that. Organization was good, and then for delivery, your delivery was good. Your voice was louder tonight than usual. Did you purposely make it louder?
I've been working on it.
Yeah, noticeably louder. And I loved how you opened with the history of podcasts. I mean, it was short, but it really kind of led right into it. Really was good for me. You have a lot of idiosyncrasies when you talk with your, you know, your smiles, your gestures, and they're very endearing. Could they be more sophisticated and formal? They could, but that's not really you, and particularly for this topic, that's newer, younger people, technology. It was especially good that you had your Alex idiosyncrasies. I think you did good at looking at the audience. Your gestures were, I love gestures, and I don't know if some people might think maybe it was too much, but I like them, and you had them up here and down here and all over. One gesture you could expand on is when you did these, when you did the wide ones, you didn't quite open up your arms all the way. There was one at the end where you, I think you said organically, that was the one time you did open it up wide. So maybe focus on that to do that. Let's see. I enjoyed it. I don't have anything else. Any constructive criticism or constructive feedback? It was very good. I enjoyed it.
Okay, our next evaluator is Beth May, evaluating our second speaker, Parsa.
Parsa, your project was to take feedback from the previous project and incorporate that into any topic you chose. And you chose a topic that was actually suggested by that feedback. So that was a good thing to do in a number of ways. People expressed interest. They wanted to hear more about this danger zone and what do we do about it. And so you gave us that. So it was a nice follow-on to the previous project, and it also met the requirement to take feedback and incorporate it. However, other feedback that you had gotten was give more personal anecdotes. And I think that you did work in a little bit more when you said something about when you talked about how you like to live on the edge is what it came down to. You said you like to live in that margin, that area between operating at high efficiency because you're outside of your comfort zone and operating in the danger zone. And that was personal and that was helpful. However, you could take it a little bit farther. So we want to hear personal anecdotes because when we hear your personal anecdotes, we relate better because then we say, oh, I could do that. So for example, when you say choose physical activity, not nicotine and alcohol, that do physical activity will make you feel better. You can say, me, I get up at 6 in the morning just so that I can hit the treadmill before I go to work. Or you could say, me, last thing I do before going to bed is I make sure that I get my exercise in and I hit the treadmill. Whatever it is you do. Now, if you aren't doing it, you could say, I've been meaning to and I'm going to try. But give us something personal from your life. Personally, when I hear someone say, I get up in the morning and exercise before work, I think to myself, yeah, I've been meaning to do that. You're inspiring me. I'm going to try harder. So when I hear a speaker say something like that and I want to do it too, usually it helps motivate me to do it. So that's the kind of detailed personal anecdotes. You said we spend maybe 20% of our effort for 80% of our effort for 20% of the outcomes. Give us some examples, something that you stopped doing because it wasn't focused enough, or something you want to stop doing because it's not focused enough, so that we get an idea of where we should look in our lives to do the same thing. So that's the kind of personal anecdote we're looking for. So you made a step toward that goal, but you need to keep going. Another piece of feedback that you got last time was about your motion. And I reminded you when you and I talked ahead of time about what your goals are for this speech, and you are still doing a lot of unintentional traveling while you're talking, and it's really distracting when you are, now I'm exaggerating, you weren't this bad. You are not this bad. Okay? However, you can see how distracting that is. Motion is good, and I've actually been staying planted, which is not ideal either. I need to learn to move more, and you need to learn to move less. So when you have a point to make, just slow it down, choose a new position, and then deliver it. Rather than talking while you're moving and moving constantly. Try to focus on that. That's where you have the biggest area for improvement to go to the next level with your next project. Great job. Also, you didn't use your notes. Feedback last time I remembered was that you kept on leaning over your notes. I don't know if you had notes here or not. I couldn't tell because you were not relying on them. You seemed to really know your subject. You knew and you had a good structure. And my final recommendation for you is tighten up the structure. The structure was very good. It had a good beginning, it had a good middle, and a good end. But you told us that we were going to hear about 3 things, and we heard about 5 things. And I think 3 of them were sort of wrapped up in one of the items you thought was one of the 3. Make it 5 and say, I'm going to give you the top 5 starting with number 5, number 4, number 3. Don't say, I'm going to tell you about 3, but I'm going to save the last 2 till later. Just make it a little more structured and help us understand what to expect. Good job otherwise. Thank you, Parsi.
Thank you.
We have one more evaluation by Larry Riggs, who's going to evaluate our number 3 speaker, Unlu.
Let me say to begin with, one thing that I love about our club is our cultural diversity, and I have so much admiration for anyone who can get up and give a speech in a Toastmasters club in their second language. That just, because I don't even have a second language. Your object was to convey your leadership style, to investigate that. As far as the mechanics of your speech, I absolutely loved that. One of the things that struck me is the level of comfort you have up here, how easy you feel. I loved the fact that you also engaged in a virtual dialogue, because you would address one and your mentor would address you. So I think that really brought more of a personal touch to the speech. The other thing that I really like, because I happen to like this when I speak, is using personal stories. To say you talk about leadership and the leadership style, that can be very dry. However, you told us an experience that you had and a myth, if you will, that you overcame. I really also appreciated the fact that you discussed being an introvert and being a leader. I've had the opportunity to be in a lot of leadership positions, and I'm also an introvert. Now, being in sales, I've had to train myself when not to be introverted. So it's definitely a learned skill. Leaders are indeed made, and you made that point very well. The other thing I liked is you used a lot of humor. If you're giving a speech and it's very technically correct, but it's kind of dry, you're going to lose the audience. The other thing that you did that really brought the audience in is you made good eye contact. You were constantly working the room. You were very good with that. The body language was excellent. It was measured. It wasn't too wild, but it wasn't too subtle either. It never looked like you were uncomfortable and didn't know what to do with your hands. So good job there. The only thing I would suggest that you consider to improve on. The purpose of your speech was to develop your leadership style. And the one thing you didn't tell us is your leadership style. But otherwise, excellent speech. The mechanics of it, the procedure, great job.
Looking at your pin, Larry, I think 21's going to be a good year. Whenever it gets here. Okay, let's move on now. Those are all our. Oh, thank you.
We have
please.
some notes to look at.
Yes, the pod reminding me. So please take your ballot and vote for one of the three evaluators, the best evaluator that you like. Whether, so our evaluators are Christine, Beth, and Larry. And I will move on with our timers report. Let me put this to okay, make sure you get it to our vote counter here. Okay, timers report, please.
All right.
Sorry.
For tonight, time was very well spent. Alex had 5 minutes and 54 seconds. Pasa had 7 minutes and 50 seconds. Onu had 6 minutes, 11 seconds. Evaluations, Christine had 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Beth had 4 minutes, 10 seconds. Larry had 2 minutes, 45 seconds. And for the table topics, Rachel, 2 minutes flat. Alex, 1 minute and 8 seconds. Thank you.
And Jody will be giving our grammarian report.
Okay. Let's see. So only 2 people used the word of the day. Unwoo said leadership has become an exigency in life. That was her context. And Joe said
Try to use it.
can't even read it. We know. Exigency to give Alex this remote. I think he said I have an exigency to give Alex this remote.
Some version of that word.
Something.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, I
tried.
must have missed some words. Like,
Thank you. So I get a D- for trying. Okay, I can live with that. Our next report is the all counters report. And giving our all counters report is Tom May.
Wizard of Oz. I have an exigency to impart this information to you immediately.
Okay.
I have to say, actually, it was a great evening without a lot of oohs and ahs. There were just a few. Bakari, and I'm doing them now, aren't I?
Yes, you are.
You had an ah and an umah. Not too bad. Parsa, it was a big improvement, actually. I had counted 4, and I have to tell you, as a personal note, you seemed very relaxed up there tonight. I was very impressed. Everybody else, I really didn't hear any. Joe, just 2 while you were first starting to do your general evaluation, but that was it. Everybody else, great job tonight. Thank you.
Now I get to give my report. A Toastmaster, good job leading and dealing with the last minute changes. I thought you had a great comment about the clapping because there are a lot of new people and then wondering why everyone's clapping. That's always good to do. Table topics, Jerry, good intro because you said you had a theme so people knew something was coming. The topics were good. I was surprised. I thought there was going to be a few more, but that was good.
That was me.
Okay, well that's okay.
That was me.
Well, he did it on the spur of the moment too, so he came up with
Yeah,
some good.
but I cut him off.
Okay, that's okay. That's your job.
Wasn't him.
The other thing, the only comment I would have, if you can, because the new Rachel in the back was struggled at first. She stumbled a little bit with her first topic because she didn't really know the process. So it might be a good idea to try to have a veteran do it first, and then come up, and then that newcomer would know how to do it. So just a little suggestion, because it's intimidating. She did really well. I'm hoping she wins. but it would make it easier for a new timer to see how that works, unless you're a frequent guest. Let's see. Okay, evaluators. Christine, I think what would have helped, because you were a little short on time, it seemed that, and you were a little short on suggestions. You had one suggestion and one positive thing to say say for the speaker. But if you lead with the description, because this is a, some of the guests might know that it's a project and it has certain requirements. So if you start off with describing this is the goal of the project, here's what they did, that might also give you one more thing to critique them on to say they didn't meet it. Like Larry in the end said, well, here's the goal of the project, and it really didn't quite meet that one, but otherwise it was really good. So that might help you in doing it. We don't have that luxury when it's a contest, because you don't. It could be any project. So it's just a matter of how the speech is done. So just something to keep in mind. It might help you. And the other thing is what they like to do at the end of a evaluation is summarize the one good point and one thing that could improve on. So you might have meant 10 things they could improve on. There were 10 things that did really well, but just summarize it at the end. It sort of just concludes the speech. Beth, I love your energy. You always come up here and have lots of energy. But you know what's really was a lot of times this was a beginning speech of the first level, and you had about 5 things they could improve on, which is really helpful, but only 1 or 2 things that you really liked about it. You sort of, and then at the end you summarize one or two points. So, but you always said it was really good. You didn't say, you weren't specific like you were for your suggestions. Larry, you follow the blue book or the book perfectly. You were positive. The things you gave, you were very specific about the things you liked, and you gave a very, very specific thing to improve on, and you summarized at the end. So you just had the classic evaluation. Good job. Timer. Timer is probably the hardest role you'll do here. You have to pay attention because your tendency is to want to listen to every speech and you forget to keep the time. But keeping us on track is really important. You did a great job. And you gave a nice, concise report. The other people that did the reports, I like it. I like that they summarized. They were positive. They were brief. So on that note, I will probably conclude my presentation so that we can move on to the fun part, is hearing about the awards. But one thing I will say is, since there's only one person that really used the word of the day, it might help to have a simpler word and less exotic word. I know it's sort of fun to have exotic words, but it's really cool what.
Fit it into a sentence.
Yeah, it's really more fun when everyone uses the word in just on the spur of the moment. So I wouldn't consider myself being able to. I couldn't even say the word. So, so on that note, I will turn control of our meeting over to our Toastmaster Meeting. Okay.
And here comes the climax of the meeting. This is our presentation. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for that. Now, I have to explain, though, to our newcomers that yes, we have these wonderful trophies, but no, you can't keep them. Because we're trying to recycle and use our money wisely and budget, so we take them back. Another thing is when I do call you, I do make this great announcement. You stand in front of our great banner with all the ribbons we've earned over the time. And you wait there and until everyone gets up, then we smile and someone puts it on the internet so we can all cheer it and see how proud we are. The first one I will do is the speech, and that would be unmoved. Yeah. Oh, and you know something? Oh, there it is. I can't tell. Is this the evaluator?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The best evaluation would be Beth. And today, our best table topics would be Rachel. Shining star, which is my discretion and to whom I can present it to. And today it's going to be to someone that just took up that mantle and said, I'll go with it. I don't care what you throw at me, but I can do it even if it's 3 minutes into the meeting, and that would be Jerry.
All right,
Thank
Jerry.
you so much for doing
I know you do. She's hiding, isn't she? She's hiding behind Jerry.
I was going to hide behind you, but okay.
You can hide behind you.
Okay.
Smile, everybody.
Cheese.
That's good.
That's Alex.
Thank you. And thank you so much for finally returning them. With no grimaces. And then I'm going to introduce myself, because it's the VP of membership, and that would be me. So I'm so happy to see so many visitors. I love to have visitors, and when I talk with you, I hear from, you've heard about it from someone, or you've heard it on the internet, and you've come to check it out. And Rochelda, I said, yes, she had gone to different ones, and I said, well, you picked the best one. Because we are. We think this, we know that, and we live it. That's all there is to it. But I do want to introduce Larry, and I don't want to say but, and I want to introduce Larry to talk about the results of our contest.
All right, we did have something other than a speech contest, and that would be a recruiting contest. The idea was to bring people in and actually have them sign up as members. The idea being if you could go out and maybe join other groups. As a matter of fact, I did that very thing. I was going to try and work the room on the last meetup I joined. I didn't get to everybody, and then he shows up at the meeting anyway. So we said, did I see you at that other meetup? So that was cool. But he works here. All right. He brought himself. So we have 2 winners and $25 gift cards to Home Depot.
Yes, and that was for, we didn't have somebody sign up, but we did have people come in with that.
Okay. All right, so let's bring him up front and embarrass him. Clap for him. Okay, the first one would be David. Come on. And the next one, Bakari. Excuse me, VP membership? Yes.
Is that me?
Us too.
Another
You're in another picture.
I'm standing behind him now.
Oh, is it right here?
I'm here. Smile.
So much energy, Alex. Thank you.
Contagious. All right, Alex.
Now, before I forget, it is up to me to talk to the visitors and have them state, as I almost forgot, what you thought of the meeting.
Oh, it was amazing. So it's my first time again.
Uh-huh.
Let me repeat that. I liked how everyone is evaluated. That was really different than any other places I've been, any other meetings I've been, any place I've been. Like nobody critiques everyone. So that was something new. So that's what I want. That's what I want to point out.
Well, I hope you come back and visit, because you can visit as many times as you want.
I work upstairs. So.
Oh, okay. Yes, and what was your input?
This is the first time for me to join this this kind of club. My English is not so good. Today I just want to. I try to understand everyone.
Right.
But it's a little difficult for me. Maybe I will study hard. I think I hope I will come here each time.
Yes, and like I said, as many times as you'd like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And what did she call you, our serial guest? What's the word? I think it was that. Megan, veteran, excuse me, veteran.
Veteran guest.
Sounds better than serial killer, yes. Wrong choice of words. Oh my goodness. Veteran.
I hope that's not my first impression. I do enjoy the meetings. I do always. I think today in particular, I was actually blown away by Rachel. Was this your first time coming up?
No, it's my second time.
Right.
So I was here.
I swear you've been here.
Yeah,
I was blown away. You came up, you didn't know what the time was, didn't know what you were supposed to do, and by the end of it, it was you speaking. It was very good.
It was
Good
powerful.
job. Yeah.
It was.
She's just trying to get some free Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A sauce. Open on Sundays, please.
So you enjoyed it, Megan. You coming back again, I hope? Excellent. Thank you. Rachel.
This is my second time here. I wasn't going to come back, but then, you know, I've been feeling kind of, well, not to put it like that. I loved it the last time. Just to say, I really liked it the last time. But it's also very out of my comfort zone because I'm also an introverted person. But I've learned to fake it over the years working with the public in the fast food industries. So I wasn't going to come back because the last time my hands were sweating even with the kitchen. It is out of my comfort zone. But then I was feeling depressed and my mentor tells me, this is what you need to do. You need to go out. Go out and be with people and start talking to people. Don't feel bad. You can talk to people. You're good at speaking with people. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll go back to Toastmasters because at least there everyone was nice. I decided to come back, and once again, I really enjoyed it. And I think I'll be coming back again and possibly joining once I, you know, hear more about the process. I got the books and everything last time, and they're just sitting at home because I was like, I can't do this every time with Toastmasters. It gets my heart rate going. It makes me very nervous. But it's living in the danger zone.
It is. There you go.
I'll be back. I really like it.
Oh, good. Oh, we really enjoyed having you here. Thank you. Okay, Matt. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Leonardo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just building off that, how everyone is so nice and everything feels very inclusive. The clapping, we do it for everyone. Everyone gets the same amount of, not claps, but you know, whole way from start to end. And I noticed that everyone's really paying attention, and no one's on their phone goofing off. So I really think that if someone starts the process, they will become a leader here. Whereas I've tried other leadership development programs, and I don't ever notice too much improvement. Whereas here, there's a program. It's a series of steps you want to go through, and I really actually believe this could work.
Yes, I think it can. Thank you.
Yeah. Guys, I got to tell everybody I'm super impressed. I mean, with the whole day, you know, probably more than I was expecting. So I had an idea of where I was going to be as a baseline going into this, and after hearing everybody today, I'm like, wait. I mean, I had no idea that so much went into, you know, how you come off and how you know, the quality of the speech that you can deliver. So, I mean, it's exciting, but it's also intimidating at the same time. But, you know, I really look forward to coming back and learning a lot more about it and hopefully improving across the board.
Excellent. We'd love to have you back.
I enjoyed it, and I agree with you because this is my second Toastmaster. I went to the one that I was telling you about, and not everybody is evaluated. I'm the crowd. Also, like you said, I'm a little bit intimidated because I want to work on my speech, want to be able to do when I see everybody comes in and do. I was blown away by you. Absolutely. And when you said leaders are made, I'm on that path, having that creation, you know. So I like it, and I definitely am going to be back.
Excellent.
Good.
Love to have you. Right, excellent. This is what we do. This is what we enjoy. This is what we like to share. And as membership VP, that's what I want to express to you. The enthusiasm that you can feel from people visiting, the willingness for people to come together and make it work even at the last minute. So I'd love for all the visitors to keep on coming back and enjoy that process. Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to the education corner, which will be Joe.
So we have an education program at Toastmasters, and we try to follow it. Not only part of that's leadership, part of it's communication. So the way you see all the people that came up and spoke today, the way they got where they are is by practice and just standing up here in stage time. You heard Rachel, the first time she got up here, her hands were sweating and she was really nervous. She didn't look nervous up here, except she had trouble getting started. But once she got going, it was easy. It made everybody look worse. You were really good. So so we also have people progressing through the program. I don't think we had anybody this from the last time progressing in the program, but we did have one person, I think, advance in the contest. Didn't you go? Aren't you going to the district?
Yes.
Yes. So Beth competed in the evaluation contest. No, the table topics. Sorry, it's too many districts. She competed in the table topics and she took first place.
Yes.
She's going on. Wow. Christine, did you place? Third, okay. But I think there were 5 competitors.
She was wrong.
4. Oh,
She
wrong.
was wrong.
You did really well.
She was phenomenal.
She was. So let's give her a
Yeah.
round of applause.
So if you want to hear Beth compete and go to an interesting showcase of other Toastmasters, just, on your agenda, there's the District 18 conference, April 12th. It's in the Baltimore Sheridan North, so you can in Towson. So it's not that far, but I think it is. If you pre-register, it's cheaper. I don't know when the price is going to go up, but I usually go for one day, the Saturday. That's when the 2 contests are. There's a business meeting, but there's also some educational stuff. And probably Beth will she's a conference junkie, so she'll be probably promoting all of the contests, everything. On the one note, it was really relieving to see everybody signed up ahead of time, and those that didn't they canceled, we were able to fill them. But one thing I noticed about the speakers, make sure that you also populate which project and at least the project you're doing, so that at least the evaluator can go look at your evaluation form ahead of time. It makes it easy to choose it. They made it easy. If you choose the right project, you can then go select the evaluation form. For the newest member, you paid your dues. The next step is to go take your assessment, your self-assessment. Okay, so you should have it, and you'll have access to everything online. That's where you get your program. You get the information about your icebreaker and so forth. Okay. If you want to find out information about the program, there's a public page called Pathways, and you can then find out about the program, how it works. There's 2 paths, and look at it that way. I'm not going to talk too much longer, but I think that's. I know one comment I wanted to make. I heard a lot of introvert, extrovert. Well, an introvert doesn't mean you're not. It just means how you re-energize yourself. So if you're an introvert, I'm an introvert. And what introverts do to re-energize themselves, they go read or they go do something. They get away from people. Extrovert they get their energy from other people. So they love going to parties and being the center of the party. They guess where they get their energy from. So you don't have to be, you can be an introvert, extrovert up here talking. And so just don't let that stop you. Think about your strengths. Thank you.
All right, I wanted to take this opportunity because I can, but I'll be brief, to right a wrong. You were absolutely correct, Larry, that I forgot to talk about the strengths. I noted them on your evaluation, but I forgot to say, so let me just take this opportunity to say, loved your confidence, I loved your volume. Parsa, you did a great job, and I forgot to give you specifics about the strengths, so I needed to right that wrong. Sorry?
That was Joe, not me.
Oh, it was Joe who evaluated me. Sorry, Joe, you were absolutely right. Joe, Larry, somebody was like, you know, I met you both at the exact same time, my first meeting, and from that day forward, I used to mix you up, but I've done a good job over the past few years of figuring that out. Don't know why I did it again tonight.
My trainer calls me Larry Joe.
He calls you what?
Larry Joe.
Larry Joe. Larry Joe. So, Joe, you were right about that, so thank you for pointing that out to me. And also, I wanted, Rachel, I remember your first time here a few meetings ago, and I think you got up to do table topics on a dare or a voluntold from your mentor. And you did great then, you did great now. And as you can see, we have about 22 people in the room, and not every one of the 22 people got up to speak. So you can come to meeting after meeting. You come up when you're ready, okay? And we will give you some encouragement and coax you, but we'll never make you get up here. So you don't have to come up here until you're ready. Also, to Richelda's point, we have all the full spectrum of people who are really great at this, not as great, really comfortable, not as comfortable, and that's why we're here. So don't be intimidated by what you saw here tonight, because we all are at different levels, and we can see the improvement. Someone said, well, you said that, I can see that you're gonna actually improve. We see it in each other all the time. Finally, the upcoming future events. So the conference, I'm not gonna say anything more, I am a conference junkie, I will be there. I'm also competing. It's a 2-day conference, there are 1-day tickets. 2 of the contests are on Saturday. I think one of the top contests is on Friday, but
yes.
It must be the Humorous. Humorous is on a Friday night, and International Speech Contest and Table Topics, I'm competing Table Topics this Saturday. The other upcoming events that aren't on the agenda, April 8th, on Monday at 6:30 to 7:30 in Frederick, we have our next leaders meeting, and I announced recently that anybody who's interested in participating may. You can get the details from myself or any of the other officers. On May 2nd, we're meeting at the Frederick what's the C? Frederick County Association of Realtors. Also in Frederick, a couple miles down the road, because this room is not available, so every now and then this room isn't available, we get to use the most excellent FCAR facility. It's almost as good as this one. And so we'll be there on May 2nd. And May 16th. May 16th is when we're going to do our officer elections for the new year that starts July 1st. So we will be electing all new officers potentially, and that's my segue to tell you after the meeting, tonight's optional training for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, Joe will lead a session talking about the different officer roles, so that anyone who is at all interested in potentially being an officer, either running for an office in our May elections or maybe next year, I encourage you to stay after and hear, if you're available, and hear about what the different roles are and what the responsibilities are, so that you can make an informed decision about whether you want to run. Anyone who wants to run, our election chairperson is Christine. So talk to Christine if you do want to run. You can talk to her tonight, you can talk to her after tonight. The elections will be the second meeting in May. Any other club business? Lisa.
I want to mention that on May 2nd, what's the name of the place? There you go. Is on the website, and it has directions to it also. Because I saw her look at me going, where's that? What? So it's on the website.
Oh yeah, the website will have the directions and the address and all that. Yep. And Jared, do you have something?
Yeah.
Jared. Oh, book study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our next book in our book study is starting today. So this is the time period to get the book, and then discussion will start April 18th. The book is Reality Unveiled. It's a sort of a spiritual book, but not religious book. And if you're interested, please contact me. I'll make sure that you get hooked up with all the resources that you need to get started with us.
Cool. Thank you, Jared. Ruth.
Reality Unveiled. We paid your dues. So I sent out my last notice on Sunday. I'm gonna try to send another one this weekend. If you haven't, use the link on the email, PayPal, or you can mail a check to the address that's gonna be included on the email.
Thank you. Please, anyone who hasn't paid your dues, pay your dues so that you can stay enrolled in the Pathways program and continue to progress within the Pathways program and get credit for your projects. So please do re-enroll, renew. That's the word.
It's a re-something.
It's been a really long week. Any other, I know, right? Any other club business? All right, I get to use the gavel. Meeting adjourned.